Start a second recording. Hello, this is the WEED Art and Activism with AMARA GEFFEN session and the question and answer series. So first on our list, AMARA, you can spot people, but it looks like Aviva is our first speaker.
Right. Well, first of all, thank you. I thought this was incredibly impressive. I was fascinated. I thought your work was really beautiful. But I had this huge question, and I suspect it requires several hours of discussion between us, which is, why the F didn't you put all this work into the book? And let me qualify that a little bit. When we did the first version of the Echo Art book, one of the things I specifically asked Newton Harrison to do, which he would not do, was to write about the strategic process of working with large institutions. And what I see that you have done here is worked with many different institutions to create one long project, which is totally local to your town. And that's a fascinating idea. Why didn't you write about that for the book? And you don't really have to answer if you don't want to.
Well, I will answer. Each piece in the book, you had 1,500 words. I don't know that I could have done this in 1,500 words, number one. And number two, I felt, having close hand seeing what the contributions were to the book, I felt that it was incredibly important that there be something in the book that really looked at working with social ecology and making that connection between rape and ecocide seemed incredibly important to me. It was a big part of experiences that I had as a teacher, as a faculty member. I was, just before we began working on the book, I had the experience that I talked about at the CAA presentation, and I had the experience that I wrote about in the book, personal experience working with a student that I was very close with and who had been raped, and helping her through that. And I felt that that needed to have voice in the book, to open the door that you can work with social issues of social ecology. And that really, if we don't deal with those issues, we can't hope to fix the environmental problems, the impacts that we are facing as a result of global warming, fires and all that stuff. If we can't learn to live together, as Pollyanna as it sounds, we're in big effing trouble. So that's why I did what I did. Susan, you're muted. You're muted. Susan, you're muted.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. I loved all of your presentation. And when you're talking about the social issues, I was wondering about the economic issues. Like most small towns over the last, 50 years, they have lost out to big malls and to bigger cities and to like buying online. How did your town, were they economically affected in a positive way by this introduction of environmental art?
Well, there's a quote by Corbusier that I love, and it's always on my studio wall and in my office, and that is, creation is a patient search. So I started this work more than 20 years ago, and I know, and we all know, the potential impact of the arts to affect the economic situation in a community. But you don't see that in a small town like mine. You don't see it overnight. You don't see it as quickly as you might in a larger, more urban setting. But I'm looking at a friend who's in the room, who lives in Meadville with me, not with me, but is also a resident of Meadville, who is actively pursuing development opportunities to build the downtown core through renovation of buildings. And I am not so arrogant to think that my work has led to that, but I think that it has been part of a series over 20 years of continual community grassroots bottom-up change, right? And that has led, I mean, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of students on this, both Allegheny students and local students. The kids who drew the pictures on that became the fence, right? They still live here. And in working with people, I'm always talking about brain drain, right? You stay in your home community, make a difference, create change. And so you see a lot of that. I've seen in the last few years, murals developed that we didn't have any part in, right? So other artists are wanting to get involved in doing this. And I think that's fantastic. In a bigger, more urban setting, that might have happened more quickly. So I think Meadville has always been on the edge of being able to make that transition into a really vital, vibrant, economically vibrant community. I think there are challenges with some of that, right? You know, how much should the economy rule, blah, blah, blah. But I see a hand up, so I hope that gives you some response. I think we've seeded change by working so hard with the city and with people in the community. So Rob, if you want to go ahead and I see your hand.
Yeah, yeah, okay, good. All right. Because of what AMARA has done over the last 20 years, 25 years. So as we develop downtown Meadville, it's interesting. You get into discussions with other realty people, with other people that are working on buildings, working on new things. It's, okay, she set the bar. The bar is high. You have to think about art when you're putting in your new building, when you're renovating your building. What's it going to look like? What's the exterior going to look like? I mean, I've got a distillery that I'm renovating right now. And my first question was, okay, that exterior is going to tie in with 3 other exteriors. How are we going to make it look right? The people that are running the art are worried about how are they going to make the back end look right. One of the real estate developers and owners in town, who is, let's just say he's to the right of Attila the Hun, and he's out there, okay? But by gosh, he's concerned about how his exterior of his building looks, and he will talk and listen to AMARA as to how am I going to have this look? How do I want to have this fit? So she's had a tremendous impact on the community in terms of art actually impacting what's going on downtown. And she's very, very right. This is not an instantaneous, oh, we're instantaneous going to make this thing look right. This is going to go on for the next 20 years. And but I want to applaud her for the stuff that she has done has raised the awareness of everybody in town regarding how do we want it to look. And I think that's important.
Steve, you got to unmute yourself. Okay, you're good.
It's still muted.
Oh,
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Davies. I was born and grew up in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and I went on to co-found Project for Public Spaces, which has worked in placemaking all over the world. And Amara, I really enjoyed this presentation because I you have opened my eyes to my own community and made me realize there were places that I didn't know even existed, and you have made them into important places and connected them with this theme that became very apparent tonight. My question to you is, and I put it in the chat, what do you think is the project that has had the most public impact, public awareness? Because you've dealt with some neighborhood parks, you've dealt with a highway interchange, Conneaut Lake is a big attraction. I just wonder what has captured the public imagination the most, do you think?
Oh, I don't, I think, I don't know that I could say just one project, right? The first work that we did, the sign art work that we did at PennDOT is certainly the most visible site. You come off a highway to come into Meadville, or you come into Meadville from the west, and you have to go by that. 24,000 cars go by that site every single day. So that has the biggest reach. And because it took 10 years of work between the signs and flowers and the fence, that's 10 years of young people. We went into every school in Crawford County, not every year, but we returned to different schools. And PennDOT used to do something called Summer of Safety, where they would open their site and people would come in. And we were there every single year with materials for people to make drawings or collages, to help us figure out. We have stacks, thousands of drawings that were from which the imagery was culled. So the level of community involvement plus the impact of how many people see it, it's certainly the piece that's gotten the most published the most, right? Written about the most. I think the highway project, had I been able to get the visuals of it more impactful, more so than they are, because it's subtle, and you're also traveling on them very quickly, right? You don't have a lot of time, and there's no way to really walk in them. But I think that also is something that is pretty impactful and in a different way. We've won awards for that. You can't go anywhere else in this country and see anything like that. Now, I hoped that would become a new strategy that we'd really influence something, because it is so vitally important to the health of the environment. I mean, what the amount of oil and gas in road runoff, in stormwater, et cetera, that we capture through those that get filtered, the wetlands that were increased, all of that, the health of that stream, Van Horn Creek, all of that's been impactful. So I think that's a pretty important project as well, but I don't know that it's had the same impact, right, that the fence project did. More impact on the physical environment, perhaps. But it's hard, Steve, to say this is the one. Sometimes,
Amara,
yeah.
I want to throw in one thing that, you talk about art. When does art become an institution or become part of the fabric? To the people of Meadville, the fence project is now part of the environment, is part of the fabric. They're always astonished. People stop me and they'll say, I'm astonished. I found there were 5 people standing on the side of the street taking pictures of this thing. And they're like, I go by it every day. And all these people from out of town stop and take pictures, and they're truly amazed. And it's become it's now part of the landscape. And it's an interesting
Good way to put it.
an interesting aspect of art that it then becomes part of the landscape.
It's an interesting point, Rob. It really is. I like the notion of it being part of the fabric of the community, because what we thought we were doing was, or the way I thought about it was, we had gathered these stories and images, and we were literally weaving them together into this community vision or community statement or community expression of what we love the most about where we live. And so it was taking that fabric, if you will, and really revealing it so that people could see it and experience it. So I like that. I like that. Thanks for that.
Well, I think you could also add that you've created places where there were no places.
Yeah.
You know, I used to play baseball in Shady Brook Park before they built the, you know, and you know, I used to drive by the Department of Transportation headquarters all the time. That was, you know, just a nondescript building, and and the interchange, of course, was. I'm not sure if people understand the interchange because people go through it so quickly, but if you do pay attention, it has totally transformed what it was.
Great. Great. Yeah. Well, maybe. If there aren't any other questions, maybe we've reached that witching hour.
Oh, we have one more question from Boulder, Colorado.
Hi, Peggy.
A deep bow to the artists of my life. And I'm a person of place, Boulder, Colorado. Amara, her brother, Jeremy, came here, and I met him in this understanding of everything, and we're pieces of earth. And Mary White and Francis, my best friend are here. These people have done their whole lives dedicated to art in public place, and I just want to give so much gratitude and like send out some juju, you know, because you bring young people and old people and everybody together, and then it's not about the government or the university or the grants, and yes, it's all of that, but I just really want to say how much our forebears, my parents came to Boulder, and Francis and Mary and Gilbert and Anne Wright. We've been part of this place, and I just feel so brilliant, Amara, how you made your life and the balance of things, you know. So that's odd. I just want to, you know, weave the pieces of how much what weed is doing. It is not a weed, but it's a weave. And I love both things, you know. I love weeds, I love weave. And so I just, sorry, don't overstate it, but I really, really feel so connected by artists of this caliber. They're not just doing their art, like they're doing art.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thanks.
Small world, right? 6 degrees of separation. I had no idea. Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
All
Can I
right,
make
well,
one
thank
last
you.
comment?
Yes,
Mary?
of course.
Amara, I just wanted to say, I think for me, looking at all your work, it's all connected by your creeks and your rivers and your watershed. And I think maybe that's like, maybe what Rob or the other friend from your community mean, like so many times it's not visible to people. And when you bring the art to it, you show that people have these tremendous resources and right in their community, right in the heart of downtown. You know, they they paved over the stream, but what little you could uncover, you uncovered. And you made the connections between the two ends, you know, where the concrete was, so that people can see that, you know, that water just doesn't appear, you know, in a puddle here, that it has, you know, it comes from someplace and it goes to someplace. And the reason that town is there is because people settled where there was water. So that water is
Absolutely.
really and the people together are the heart of your community. And that's what I so appreciated, that you and all your students, and working with students, there's no end to the value in that, because it's like, you know, the students that you worked with 20 years ago are voting now. And some of them are running for office, or some of them are mayors, or some of them are just in professional positions, you know, that can make a difference to the future of your community. And they're educated by you hands-on, experientially, which is totally different than reading a book,
Mhm.
to see the value of placemaking in their own hometown. So I applaud you for that.
You know, it's something that unfolds, right? Our lives unfold. I never would have thought when I moved to Meadville to take the job at the college that this was what I was going to do. So there are little twists of fate that happen in our lives.
Yes.
If seed hadn't been formed, if my colleagues hadn't asked me if I could do something, and I thought, I don't know what it'll be, but sure, I'll try, I'll do it, because it made sense. It seemed like the right thing to do. And, you know, one of the other things that I'll say, to build on something you just said, from Suzanne Lacey, I learned about generational transfer, the importance of that. And I never really, as a young teacher, thought about that. I went into teaching because I liked working with people, and because my professors told me I was good at it, and because I needed a way to earn some money. And I didn't know that I was going to stay in teaching. I thought I would do this for a few years and then I would go off and, you know, show in galleries and whatnot. And I had a little taste of that and decided it's much more important for me to be here and to build my life in place, to take root where fate has brought me. I've chosen to accept that, but to take root there and to engage in really positive and productive ways. And that notion of generational transfer is so important. I don't do it with students since I've retired, right? But that same level of teaching happens in the community. That same character of it happens through the community. So you guys have been a wonderful audience, and I'm very appreciative of your comments and your feedback and your time.
Well, thank you, Amara. Thank you very much. We'll stop the recording now. And so let's see if we can do that. Manoush, can we stop the recording?
Do we see Manoush